Welcome back. We are here for another mental cheat code. This week's cheat code is breaking down Omar Jenkins' cheat code, which is exciting. It's a 2-for-1.
Is discipline equals freedom. And I literally have it, I'm at my desk and I have it written right here on a Post-it note. And I keep it here. It just says discipline equals freedom. And then it says everything you want is on the other side of fear.
This quote that he puts in there, it speaks true to some of the philosophies that I have always spoke about when we talk about striving for success. But then the act of how he has this cheat code written down, how he has this quote written on a Post-it note and placed in an accessible place for him. It's in his desk and he can pull it out and it's tangible. There are so many things that we're going to dive into about how if you start to do these little things and execute them, they will elevate your mental performance game. And that's what these mental cheat codes are all about. They're little nuggets of finding mental tips that can elevate your mental playbook. And I want you to find what works for you, make it personal, adapt it, and then continue to add on. So this week, please go back and listen to the full episode. You'll find something inspiring, something that sits with you. You'll find some nuggets of amazingness that can just help optimize you further. Or as we always say, these episodes are story shares and they're supposed to just evoke emotion and normalize and help us find truth and kind of some of the things that maybe we didn't know that we were feeling, or help us understand that we're not the only one that thinks those things. But our mental cheat code episodes are all about giving you a little bit of an extra thing to add to your playbook that allows you to just excel and thrive. So Omar's mental cheat code, he pulls out literally a yellow Post-it note and says, I carry this quote with me. It's in my desk. This is my go-to. And it says, discipline equals freedom. Everything you want is on the opposite side of fear. Now, when I work with athletes, a lot of the athletes that come to me, or at some point in the time that I have the opportunity to work with them, they fall right in the middle of this continuum. We have this continuum of success. And right in the middle, they're there. And they're kind of feeling yeah, they're good enough. They're probably performing what we would look like on the outside view really well. It's good enough. Yet they're performing in a way that is not optimizing themselves. They're not taking risks. They're not growing. They're not striving for success. They want to. They have every desire. And you might be like, man, that sounds like me. I have every desire to want to be successful, but I'm stuck and I'm not sure why. When we look at this continuum that I work from, there's striving for success and there's fear of failure. And there's fear of evaluation. Those are the two most common fears that impact our performance. We fear failure. No one wants to lose. No one likes losing. No one likes when things are hard and failing. And the failure, there's a difference between failing and feeling like a failure. So this fear of failure, it's not that you're afraid to fail, because a lot of us get tripped up on that. They're like, no, I'm adaptable and I have a growth mindset and I can't wait to continue to push myself and I can keep going and I'm resilient. You might be resilient. You might pick yourself up after every fall. You might keep pushing even when it's hard. That is a different topic. But when I say we fear failure, we fear the idea and the aspect of feeling like a failure, feeling like we are not good enough. That is what impacts our self-belief, our self-worth, and we know that that can cause a lot of negative emotions, and it can lead to sadness and hopelessness. It can lead to lack of motivation and burnout and depression and anxiety. So that fear of failure side of the continuum is real. And we all are trying to avoid that emotional component. The other aspect of fear of evaluation that's so real, especially depending on where you're at in your athletic career and your age, we fear evaluation. We fear evaluation of others, our peers, our coaches, our parents. It all depends on what you're working on in your athletic career, your performance career, your jobs, your academics. But evaluation is a part of it, whether it's social, it's academic, it's athletic. Like I said, there are judges in certain sports that have to evaluate you. And that is a vulnerable place to be because they assess you and they have the power to say what they believe you fit a criteria on and how you're doing. But then there's this aspect where they're not a part of the sport, but we know evaluation exists. We fear, what do our coaches think of us? What do our parents think of us? What do our teammates think of us? What do our friends think of us? Or scouts or unknown people on social media and the presence we put ourselves on there. We are constantly exposed to the evaluation and the judgment of others. And so maybe the act of the evaluation is not what bothers you, but it's the meaning behind what those evaluations mean. And some of us have thinking traps that we fall into, that we personalize things and we think everything that is said is talking about us, or we mind read, or we assume the worst. And we fall into this place that causes us a lot of negative self talk, self doubt. It goes back into that continuum of anxiety and depression. And when we know that all of us are susceptible to fear of failure and fear of evaluation, then we have to figure out, what do we do with those feelings? Where do we fall on this continuum? And like I said, we fall right in the middle sometimes of like doing just enough not to fail, doing just enough to be in the process of feeling like we're good enough, that we're doing okay, that we, got, it's like a B plus effort, right? We're doing enough. We're great. We're passing, but we don't feel that we're doing all that we could. We don't feel that we're optimizing our performance. We don't feel that we're the shining star or getting the accolades that we know we are capable of. And so when I have these athletes come in, or if you're on this continuum, you're thinking, man, I think I'm stuck right in the middle right now. I say, are you looking to the side of failure? Are you looking to the part of doing enough not to fail? And is that your focus? You're going to do all the things not to fail versus striving for success. And so when we look at striving for success, that's why this quote was so beautiful. And when I heard it, I was like, oh man, you're speaking truth to what I believe, and you're speaking to all the things that I teach about. But when we are, discipline equals freedom. The act of preparing and putting your best foot forward and committing to routines and being accountable. We know in previous episodes, we talked about when you are prepared and you are doing all the little things, you have your prehab, you have your pre-performance routines, you have your intentionality and the goal setting, and you have mindfulness and calming. And we get ourselves in the space to feel fully prepared. We practiced all the things. We've learned the plays. We know the game plan. We have our route set. When we then commit to performing, there is freedom, because the discipline that we've put upon ourselves, the choices that we made, the actions we took, that we knew when we took these actions, it would lead to success. There is freedom. You release control. You don't have the mental and emotional pressures placed upon yourself, or the stress or the anxiety, because you can sit back and say, I have done the work. I am fully prepared. And now all I have to do is just go play. And I said play intentionally because I want the difference between perform or play. But this aspect of play is fun. It's exciting. It brings you back to the positive emotions that we want to have. And we can allow ourselves just to go be free. There is so much, just, I already feel it now when I talk about like a release of that emotional pressure, the fear of failure that shows up. Like it's just this aspect of like, yeah, man, this is going to be amazing. I just get to go be myself. And there's so much power in just the discipline to prepare and the discipline and execution that allows so many positive outcomes to come from it, and being free in the moment. But the second part of that quote, which I love, is everything you want is in the opposite side of fear. And so my continuum is beautiful because there's this fear side and then there's striving for success. And when you tap into the success you want to have, when you look at the goals you want to execute and achieve, I always challenge my athletes that I'm working with, and we can think about this as executives as well, or high achieving students and professionals. When you stop and you say, what is it that I'm trying to reach? And you really own that goal and you say that goal out loud, then I challenge you to close your eyes and ask yourself, what is it going to feel like when I accomplish that? Just take a moment to sit there and execute and ask yourself, like, what is it going to feel like when I accomplish that goal? That emotional energy, that warmth, that release, whatever it is for you. For me, when I would sit there and I would prepare for my races in college, and I would imagine myself crossing that finish line, and I would look at the clock and I could see the time that I wanted to have. I mean, it would give me chills. It would give me like energy. I would always feel energy inside my chest, like almost like anticipation of like, I want to go do that right now. And that's part of where I had to work on my emotional regulation to control the feeling, but allow myself to almost taste and almost have it happen. Because when I got to that moment and I was in my races, I could be like, yeah, I can push because I know what that feeling's gonna like when I get to the successful part. And so I challenge you all, like, stop focusing, or encourage you to stop focusing on the failure part. Stop focusing on the bad or what you're trying not to do. Because when we program what not to do in our minds, we're going to start doing those things. But I encourage you to start imagining the success, feeling the emotion it's going to have when you reach it, knowing the steps it takes. You already mapped out the steps. Your coaches have already prepped you and are training for you to have that game plan happen. But start feeling it, start understanding it, start seeing it in your mind and allowing yourself to go be successful. So that quote that was given to us was like a mental gem of yes, everything we want is on the opposite side of fear. Now, that mantra might not fit for you. That's okay. I mean, we found some nuggets in there, and that's part of the mental cheat code step one for our mental performance playbook. But the other part that is even more exciting is how Omar was using that for his mental cheat code. He tangibly had a yellow post-it note. He wrote the quote down there and he put it on a post-it note and he stuck it in his desk, and he could pull to it whenever he needed a reminder. Maybe it's daily, weekly, maybe he forgets about it and then he's like, oh man, I need to go back to these routines. I need to go back to that emotional component that fuels me, and he'll pull it out. For you, first, find something. And I encourage a lot of my athletes to have a whiteboard in their room, in their door, somewhere that they can see. Even the mirror on the bathroom, you hear tons of people that just like write something on the mirror and it's like they can look at it every single day. Find a place that you can physically write down either a goal or a mantra, a phrase, a word, a quote, um, something that emotionally connects you to a grounding space to feel good, to feel energized, to feel motivated to then go do. So get that phrase, that energy. Maybe it's even a picture. It could be a picture that inspires you, but there's got to be something tangible that you can see and utilize. And then putting it in a place that we can see constantly. When we do this, it's just a constant, we call it a visual cue. It's a visual cue that is sparking the emotional feelings that we want to have. It's linking us back to the goals that we're trying to achieve. And it is such a mental cheat code to allow you on the daily without really having to do stuff because you've already done it, just to bring you back in that moment and be like, oh yeah, that's going to be awesome. Oh yeah, I needed to hear that today, or I'm on track. And so, you can change this up. I know for myself, when I was applying to a doctorate program for my clinical psychology degree, the name tag that I used at the open house of the school I wanted to go to, I took it off and I put it on my steering wheel. So every time I got in my car and I was driving, I would see that name tag and I would see the name of the school, and it would remind me like, that is where I'm going to go. That is my future. And I'm going to do whatever it takes every single day to lock in to do that. I used to have another cue where I would put just a little heart on my watch. I mean, you guys probably thinking like, why are you putting these stickers on places that like I would never do, like your steering wheel or on your watch? But for me, like it worked. I liked to see it, but I would put it on my watch because I was a runner and I was trying so hard to be a conference medalist, and I was working really hard. And for me, I went way back to my first coach, who, when I was 4, he was my coach from 4 until 14. And he would tell me that, you had a lot of heart. And it took me a long time to understand what that meant. But once I owned the heart, which was the passion and the energy and the care that I had for my sport, my teammates, and wanting to do well, and knowing that I would risk it all, I would strive for success, I would take the chance, and I'd have the freedom to just go after things. it it really tapped into who I was as an athlete and as a person. And so I put just a little heart on my watch, because as runners, we like to look at our watch a lot. And I would look at my watch a lot, and it would just remind me and ground me of like, yeah, you're doing it. Like, I know it's hard and you can do this, but you have a lot of heart. And that was my cue. So you don't always have to have words to connect to the self-talk. You don't have to have phrases or big long things. It can be an image, it can be a picture, it can be something that you're working towards. It's personal. It has to connect to you and it has to connect to the emotion. But the power of this tangible item and visibly seeing it locks in the emotional self-talk that we know that's motivational, right? Taps into the feelings that motivate us, that inspire us to be better. And then it can also tap into some instructional self-talk if you put real tangible goals of telling you how to do it. But this mental cheat code that was given to us is much more of the motivational self-talk, tangibly writing down, because we know our brain, when we write things down and then we see it, we encode it better than just saying it out loud. So that's why I always encourage you to write stuff down, physically see it, touch it in your hands, make it real, and always tap into the emotional aspect that then connects to the performance outcomes you want to have. So we got 2 things for 1 today. It's amazing in our mental cheat code. You're going to optimize your performance playbook by adding this to your list. So if we recap again, follow Omar's episode. But as he said, discipline equals freedom, and everything you want is on the opposite side of fear. So be prepared, utilize your routines, be accountable, and tap into that emotional quality and start looking for success and striving for it. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.